Okay. Welcome to the Natomas Charter School Board of Directors meeting for January 9th, 2023. Calling us to order at 5:31. I'll take roll call. Doug Gaffney.
Doug will not be joining us today.
Nita Kushal. Here. Sean King.
Here.
Gina Lee's delayed.
On her way, yep.
Yep, okay. Dr. Meharalo. Here. Preeti. Here. Jennifer Morgan, I'm here. Ashante. Here. Excellent, okay.
Students will be joining us after closed session today.
Perfect, all right. Let's see, hearing of the public for items on the closed session agenda.
Nothing received with me.
Okay, at this point, we will adjourn to closed session to consider and or take action upon any of the following public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54954.2. Administrative Representative Dr. Joe Wood, Executive Director Evaluation and Employment. And Gina is here. Adjourn to closed session 5:32.
Right?
Yeah.
We're gonna go meet the conference.
I'll be in there in just a second.
All right, sounds good. No, it's all for.
Check it out. IP or something.
How's your power situation on there? Is it holding up?
Thank you.
Or is it power line?
We lost power a few times. Saturday night was 8 hours. And then New Year's Eve was like 3 hours.
Not power line.
Last night was like 10 minutes. So it's fine. But I learned about tankless water heaters, how they don't keep the water warm.
Oh, yeah, no power, no, you have tankless out
No
there?
power, no
Oh,
shower, Nina.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even though, cause they're gas fired, right? But you have to have electric
we
too.
keep it going. So,
Yeah, let's remember that. That might help.
Yeah, TCU's getting closer to reality.
Wow.
Georgia, no,
Pretty strong.
right?
TCU was 12-point underdogs.
Were they?
Yeah.
How do you want to know?
Wow.
All right, we good to go?
You're nothing where I came from. Okay.
All right. Welcome back. We will reconvene open session at 6:17 PM. No action taken during closed session. Our students are here. Tanvi? I'll do a roll call for the students.
Sure.
Okay. Diego?
Here.
Key? And Lily?
Tanvi.
Tommy? She, you know what, when you were here, she told me I could do it either way. Would you like Tanvi?
What?
Would you like to be called Tanvi or Tanvi?
It really doesn't matter.
Oh.
Official word. That's right. Okay, may I have student information update from Diego, please?
Okay, so for ECA, January 3rd was start of the new semester. Does that mean there's a reset for grades as well? Everyone's starting at 100%. And this week, January 9th through the 12th, are the monthly grade level meetings for each ECA cohort. So today was the 11th grade class meeting. Tomorrow will be the 12th grade class meeting. Wednesday, will be the 9th grade class meeting, and Thursday will be the 12th grade class meeting. I mean, the 10th grade class meeting, sorry. ECA is planning an award ceremony. It's changed, not January 4th, like it says up there. It's now gonna be January 18th. And leadership has been planning events and spirit weeks for the new year. And there's gonna be a new facial social for the new students, January 20th. Then next week, January 16th and January 17th, there's no school. 16th is because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and 17th is because it's a staff development day.
Great. All right, thank you. Next up, Tanvi.
Okay. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had a nice 2022 and are slowly transitioning out of winter break and into the new year. Here is December board report from Leading Edge. Even though we didn't have much of December to take in, there was still some spirit in our Leading Edgers. So, woohoo! On December 16th, day before break, we had our Indian Cultural Day. 6th graders kicked off the event by settling up their stalls and making Rangoli or Indian chalk art. Then we had some dance performances, and I led one group, so I taught dance performances and Indian folklore skit. After that, the bazaar started off where different groups had covered a certain topic about Indian culture, such as henna, Indian folklore, oil lamps, games, etc. We were also served yummy food. So, and then we had our 6th grade basketball teams finish up with not a single game lost. We had our tryouts for 7th and 8th grade basketball. One thing that was not mentioned here is that we had a Spirit Week, December 12th to 16th. And we had our rally on the 16th, a school-wide soccer tournament. Congratulations to the 8th graders for winning that. For academics, we had our 2nd iReady diagnostics on December 5th to 9th, and a lot of students showed growth. And a lot of students had, and whoever showed growth in both math and reading, they got a hot chocolate treat. So that's all for board report.
All right, thank you. Let's see, how about Key next, please?
So, good evening, board. I hope you had a happy new year and had a restful winter break. And I hope you guys had a fun time celebrating the holidays and getting some rest as well. So, we didn't really have too much happen after the last board meeting in December. So, initially we had some shout outs. So, special mention to senior Monica Cervantes for her senior project of a holiday market that appeared on Good Day Sacramento, and this happened on December 11th. and middle school had their spirit had a spirit week when we came back, but this was January 3rd to 6th, so this was just like to get back into the school spirit a little bit after winter break. And on January 7th, we had 4 students who were accepted to play in the 2023 CMEA Capital section honor band. So congratulations to students Charlotte Giffroy, Fiona Feld, Aubrey McCray, and Isabella Spiva. And some other things that are coming up and aren't mentioned are physically written over there. We are currently in the middle of doing our iReady diagnostics. So classes are a little bit tiring, but we're getting through that. This week, we're also going to have our Student of the Quarter breakfast happening on January 11th. So so all teachers chose one student that we're outstanding to them, and they're going to celebrate those students with a breakfast on Wednesday morning. Ms. Pollard just sent out an email for the Linnea Festival auditions for monologues, duets, scenes, and musical theater solos. So this is happening during Ms. Pollard's win time this week. And if you guys don't know what Linnea is, summed up, it's basically a 3-day theater festival where people perform theatrical performances, and they get to work with theater professionals and also attend theater workshops. So this is going to be really exciting for the theater department. And also, as we're getting back, we're also having the opportunity to have a spring schedule semester change request, and the last day to submit requests is January 13th, just so students can have the opportunity to either fulfill like their last few credits or just switch schedules if they really need to. And 8th grade is having also 8th grade portfolio deadlines are coming up this month, and their second deadline is coming on January 27th. And if you guys don't know what 8th grade portfolio is, it's basically it's a year-long project for 8th graders to reflect back on their middle school years and their assignments, and it's a little bit of a stressful time, but overall it's a very fun presentation in the end. And our last thing coming up is the Winter Dance Show for a dance company. This is, I believe, happening on January 27th to 28th, and also at the same time we're going to be having a visual arts reception in the Benvenuti. So while you get to watch the amazing dance performances, be sure to check out the visual artists as well. And this concludes my January report. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lillian, please.
In the weeks between the December board meeting and winter break, PAC students kept busy wrapping up semester 1. Throughout December, leadership organized some fun spirit days, including Pajama Day, Cozy Sock Day, and Dapper Day. On December 7th, PAC middle schoolers had their winter social and dance. Students dressed up to celebrate with music, snacks, and games. Everybody had a great time. We also did some community service projects. PAC's Some Good News class raised $158.06 plus supplies for Cats About Town Society. Everyone participated by selling used books, making cat toys in class. Leadership also planned a food drive in cooperation with Natomas Chamber of Commerce. After winter break, students have been easing into semester 2 by doing iReady diagnostics and registering for new workshops.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, hearing of the public for items not on the agenda.
I'd like to call Mr. Solupski to the podium, please. Do you need this, Mr. Solupski?
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Solupski, you're gonna have 2 minutes to speak. I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. I wasn't really expecting to be here today, so I'll try to go off the notes real quick. I just want to challenge the civil discourse policy. For the remainder of this year, we're being assigned an administrator to our advisory meetings. I don't believe I violated policy, and by sending one email that was deemed argumentative, it just questioned the meeting format. It didn't include anything demeaning, abusive, or threatening. And those are the guidelines that are to be deemed civil discourse. So I'd like to send an email I'd forward that to the board, and if any board member can tell me how it violated the policy, cool, maybe I missed something, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I violated something that I didn't see. If you guys would be happy to look at it and tell me where I missed something. Otherwise, I'd like to challenge the placement of an administrator in the classroom. I'd like to question the lack of transparency. We're allowed to record meetings. This meeting's being recorded. We can record meetings with administrators, but we're told we can't record advisory meetings because it's deemed a classroom setting. And I wonder why, because it's the same individuals that are in the administrative meeting, the school staff, the parents, and only my daughter would be in this now, not any other student. So there's no confidentiality. There's no reason why that can be recorded also. And then I just want to question why, if I have an advisor, I can't make all the advisor meetings. It's rare through my work. Sometimes it's hit and miss, but I just sent an advisor an email 2-3 times just questioning my daughter's status and how she's been doing recently, how she's been performing, and I got no response. And I just find that kind of demeaning and unprofessional on that behalf. That's all I really have to say. Told you I'd be quick. Now it's. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Lupsky. Ms. Lupsky, I know you have 5 items. You get 2 minutes per item. I will start the timer once you start speaking, and then I will reset the timer when you flip to the news. Get my glasses on.
Okay, so for the first topic, for 2 minutes? Go ahead. Okay. So the first topic of interest is we are concerned about abusive and questionable demands on a child with a disability. There is no fair or appropriate accommodations being given per the FAPE guarantee at the PACT program. The staff, we believe, is not equipped to know how to engage with certain students to meet a child's needs, such as a child with autism, which takes specific qualifications that we have brought to their attention that have not been recognized or respected. We are being treated with force and fear of punishment if we speak on behalf of our child to advocate for her in any way. There are tactics being used against us, such as the civil discourse policy that was just used. We are being deemed argumentative instead of just negotiating, trying to do what's best for our daughter to support her appropriately. So we're here to ask the board to investigate abusive approaches that poorly interact with PAC students that have disabilities such as autism. We don't believe the current PAC staff or administration assigned to her is equipped to appropriately engage and create plans for a child without the use of force, fear, pressure, demands, or threats of punishment on her as a child and as us as a parent to enforce their will without any collaboration. We have intent to protect students with disabilities from bullying approaches of intimidation and dismissal of their disability with a lack of flexibility to agree to helpful accommodations that use creativity to engage with a child in a manner that promotes safety and comfort and not fear. There's a lack of transparency being allowed in meetings, as mentioned from my husband, to hide the truth. And we have no record of any academic or social emotional concerns from any staff member at all about our daughter to warrant these abusive approaches, which are conducive basically to shock therapy, figuratively speaking. Thank you for the first topic. Number 2, let me go ahead and get the notes for that. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so for the second topic, this is related also to the civil discourse policy that my husband previously spoke about. We have concerns that this civil discourse policy is being abused and misused to control parents with written and verbal opportunities to simply negotiate and talk and collaborate to advocate for support of their child when decisions are being made that happen to negatively impact or affect that child, whether they have a disability or not. There is an effort to use the civil discourse policy to strangle freedom of speech, which is mentioned on page 1 that that's not the intent of the policy. It is meant to allow reasonable collaboration, and disagreements are going to arise. It's possible. Not every staff member is going to make the right decision for a student. They could make mistakes. There could be better ways. There could be some creative options to negotiate and collaborate for what's best with the child. In the PAC program, with parents as the educator, responsible for 99.9% of the education, who knows the child best? The parent. So the parent has that feedback to give and share, and the advisor should also be obligated to share feedback of the child, and we are being withheld that information. The advisor will not respond to an email to give us feedback, and we're being told in a meeting today that there's no data that exists about our child. When we've had several meetings with her and there's been no feedback because it's being denied. So how can you work with staff to support a child with a disability to find the right accommodations if there's no feedback from the advisor and we're not being allowed access to that because the administrator or the administration is standing in the way of that? We can't get anywhere without cooperation or reasonable approaches to helping our daughter, and she has rights. Okay, number 3. Let me turn to that. All right. Okay, and I do have the meeting format too, which you gave to them, right?
Yes, they have it all.
And so that is also something that needs to be reviewed regarding all 5 of these topics today, the meeting format that was proposed. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay, so on 11/7, we attended a dispute resolution meeting to attempt to answer or get an answer to this dispute. We believe that 2 PACT policies, one which is unwritten, are discriminatory in nature and stand in the way of students with disabilities like autism. We asked that in that meeting for an answer, but it was not answered. We were provided an outcome letter. However, the answer was never given and it was not resolved. The outcome overlooked the actual dispute we brought to the table, and instead there was simply a statement made. The statement said, NCS enforces all policies in a non-discriminatory manner, which did not answer our question. And it is impossible for any of those members of that committee in that meeting to substantiate that statement because they are not part of enforcement of those policies. So they don't know what's going on with enforcement behind the scenes from different administrators that are enforcing policies in different ways from student to student. So we are asking or stating that this statement was not resolved in the dispute, and we are still seeking an answer to resolve whether or not the board supports the policies that are in place that we believe are discriminatory in nature against students with disabilities, such as autism. They are standing in the way of the accommodations that our child needs to properly engage with her curriculum, and she should not have to enter special education in order to cater to the needs of staff when she has managed for the last 4 years with a record of solid academic performance in this program. We continue to believe that the policies are discriminatory, and we ask the board to collaborate and fix it and give us an answer as to whether or not they support these policies that stand in the way. All right. And number 4. Okay, I think I'm ready. Okay, so we have participated in a 504 already. The accommodations that were presented did not remove the obstacle or address the major life activities that our daughter was eligible for. Nothing was proposed that was fair or appropriate per the FAPE guarantee for a child with a record of impairment, although she qualified. So now some new dynamics have surfaced because of the civil discourse policy and because of the addition of an assignment of an administrator to intimidate our child during the meetings, which we decided is an added dynamic to cause her complications in meetings. So we asked for a modification to the 504 to make sure that those distractions were eliminated or minimized. And instead of being allowed to modify the 504, now we have to do another 504. So my concern is that the board members should be very concerned that there's a waste of NCS resources, time and money, which I know fiscally is a priority of the board. Due to a lack of flexibility and willingness to agree to fair and reasonable support of students with disabilities or not, per the FAPE guarantee, per civil rights, per ADA rights, there should be more accommodations and more flexibility so that we are not having to put our daughter through months of having to try to endure these circumstances while we continue to negotiate and go around and waste time and resources and money. Because now we have to do another 504 because the first one they couldn't negotiate. And now we have to do an IEP because our daughter has to enter legal protection in order to make sure that she is being supported. In the agenda that I provided you, you will see no support for her. None, just demands, just expectations and punishments. Okay, I think we're coming to the end. Okay. So they're all related, if you can tell. 2 minutes, go ahead. They're all related because this is the experience that we've spent over the last basically 2 to 3 months, which should have been resolved now in support and with a priority on the child, not a priority on staff, not a priority on parents, not a priority on administrators who need to feel, that they're above the needs of a student. A student should matter. A student's voice should matter. On 11/29/22 in a meeting, my daughter, who is an introvert, she doesn't often speak. She's being assessed for speech now because of this, because she's having difficulty. She spoke up and she finally used her voice and she said to somebody that is required to be a participant in the meetings, would you mind sitting at your desk so that I could not be so distracted? And my daughter was told, I am no longer obligated to consider your autism diagnosis in my decisions because the 504 was declined and all you are is a general education student. So PACT is about valued voices, is about strong support, and is about a partnership with parents. And my daughter was disrespected and dismissed so that person could sit there 5 feet from her face and make her feel uncomfortable. That's what we're dealing with. That's inappropriate. The PACT handbook, if it's not going to be followed and the program, it's a fraud. They are not following it as a partnership, it's a dictatorship, right? And the priority should be on a child and how the child feels safe and how the child feels respected and how the child is given some level of support rather than threats against the child. In the meeting agenda, you'll see if she doesn't perform in the meetings, it's considered a missed assignment. I haven't had a missed assignment in 4 years because I fulfill all of my parent obligations on time and as expected.
Thank you, Ms. Lipsky.
Thank you for listening. Sorry it was so much. We'll be back next month.
We'll have a staff member follow up with you.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
I do have 2 members of the public on Zoom. Ms. Aiken, are you ready to speak?
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Let me just turn you up a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
As an NCS educator and former NCS parent, I'm continually inspired by our families, our staff, our admin, and our principal. The depth of commitment and desire to create an enriching atmosphere for each and every student is evident daily. I really appreciate being a member of our homeschool hive, and it's been 10 years now, and I do see a lot of respect and great community at our school. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jen. And I think I have Natalia, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Are you here to speak for items not on the agenda?
I just wanted to share my personal experience with PACT.
Sure.
We've been with PACT for about 2 years now. I have a daughter in 2nd grade, and I have a lot of reservation going into PACT simply because English is not my first language. And I personally did not graduate from school here in the US. I came from a different country. And I also have an accent, but when I went to speak to the staff before enrolling my daughter, I was assured that it shouldn't be a problem. And sure enough, I have so much support. I feel such a positive environment. Anything I need help with, I can always speak to Mrs. Carter or my advisor, who this year happens to be Jennifer Aiken. And last year it was one of the advisors that that retired. But I want to say that we love the environment at PACT. We always, my daughter always is so happy to go there for workshops and just for meetings or just to hang out with other kids. And we just absolutely love the environment.
Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And is there anybody else on this Zoom call that would like to speak regarding items not on the agenda? Hearing none.
Okay, great. Hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
Nothing received with me. Is there anybody on the Zoom call that would like to speak regarding anything on the agenda? Hearing none.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. Comments, questions, tonight's agenda, anything? Okay, may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? So moved. Second. Thank you, Preeti. Roll call vote. Preeti? Here. Sean?
Here.
We know you're here.
Yes.
Dr. Manorano? Yes. Shante?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Gina? Ina? Aye. Yes.
And was that Ashante with the motion?
Yes. Okay. And Preeti who's here was the second.
Yes.
The second. Okay, moving on. Comments, anything, consent items? Okay, may I have a motion to approve tonight's consent items? So moved. Thank you. Thank you. Roll call vote, Nita? Yes. Gina? Yes. Jennifer, I'm a yes. Ashante? Yep. Maria? Yes. Sean?
Yes.
Preeti? Yes. Okay. All right, moving on. PACT Academy presentation. Mrs. Carter.
Hello, everybody.
And you also have hard copies of this presentation in front of you.
We weren't sure the power would hold.
I still does.
We prepare for everything. I printed mine out too. I don't trust the power, the internet, all the things. Well, I'm back. It's the annual sharing the State of PACT address. And I have brought with me my slides that are bee themed. So this year for 2022-23, PACT Academy has a theme of bees. And so here I have some of my leadership helper bees. And our theme this year was Learn, Grow, Thrive in the Homeschool Hive. We chose this theme in celebration of our first full year of coming back together for all the things. And we wanted something that really represented hard work, community coming together, and resilience. And bees are all of those things. The bee theme has been very popular. It may come back. It may be back.
And so some enrollment data as of Tuesday morning last week, we had 144 students enrolled. We have had throughout the year anywhere between 140 to 160 as our fluctuations occur. Currently, we have 26 students on IEPs, 3 on Section 504 plans, and that makes up 20% of our student enrollment this year. Our student population, we have 89 students enrolled in elementary K-5, and we have 54 in middle school. 32 of those middle schoolers, or 60% of them, are enrolled in our Project X hybrid program. The next slide kind of has just a distribution visually by grade level. I threw this in here in past years. We definitely had a very middle school heavy enrollment, and that is starting to balance out. Over the last couple of years, we've really seen some grade level balancing, which has been kind of exciting. We are seeing many more of the primary age students, and a lot of those students are sticking around. So we've had much less turnover than in previous years. The families who are enrolling are sticking around, and we love that. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what sets us apart from other homeschooling programs. During COVID, as you may know, every district on the planet opened an independent study program. So we went from being one of a few programs to one of very many. As you can imagine, that spread our enrollment out quite a bit across the county and the area. And it made us really look at who do we want to be? We can't be all the things to all the people. So we want to make sure that we're really defining who we are as a program and getting good at that. So what sets us apart is coming together. And so I just wanted to share some of the things that we're doing. Our workshops are in full swing. In semester 1, we had 49 discrete different workshops offered to students. And this semester we have 58. The increase there is we had a teacher come back from maternity leave and pick up some things. And then we also had a couple teachers pick up a few extra workshops. 100% of our workshops are back to in-person. So our students are coming in. There's a wide variety of topics. We have art, music. We are partnering with a new local dance studio this year. We have workshops in math, science, writing, history, fitness, all sorts of fun things. No, it's okay, you're great. So then the next slide here is just kind of pointing out some expanded support opportunities. There were a lot of plans in place that kind of got put in hold, and we're starting to roll out those programs. Last year, we added an academic bridge program for our students on IEPs to come in and get their services in a classroom setting with groups of students. This year, we expanded that. We now have 3 academic bridge sessions weekly for different grade groupings. And then we added this year 3 speech bridge sessions weekly for students who have speech services. They're coming together. They're getting to work in little groups with our speech pathologists. We also added an English Learners Club for emerging bilingual students who are coming together to get some English language instruction. And we started this year piloting with our littles. They're up there hunting for the gingerbread man just before break. And then we've really done some focus on staff training and professional development that focuses on supporting supporting students who are working in these groups in general universal supports. Specifically, about half of our staff at this point are GLAD trained, and we're working with the GLAD trainers that also work with Star Academy for some cross campus training to provide consistency for students who move between campuses. We're really focusing in on those universal strategies to support all of our students, and then working with our staff on how to group students together to give them something that resembles a classroom experience when they need to really interact with peers. All right, next one. The little bees keep flying in. So another really fun thing that we've got to bring back in full force this year are our connectivity activities. Field trips have been wildly adventurous this year. Ms. Aiken has been waiting to plan field trips for a couple of years, and we went gung-ho. So just a couple of highlights. Because of our bee theme, we've really looked for some bee. We've been to the Bee Sanctuary in Davis. Fairy Tale Town ran a special bee program for our kiddos. We had a sleepover at the zoo. We've been to the Natomas Library. So all sorts of really exciting things. We've also brought guests in on campus. So the fire department, you can see the truck, has come out to the parking lot and done a presentation on safety. We've had, oh goodness, all sorts of visitors. We've had an astronaut, community leaders, community service people come in and do guest speaking engagements and work with groups of students. So lots of opportunities to bring people in. Oh, we had a horse visit. That was really exciting. And then family events are back. So, so far we held a family bee night in September. We had beekeepers come in with their hives. We did all sorts of science activities, had our leadership students dressed up as bees and doing crafts. We have coming up soon a math night where we have glow stick math activities and black light things coming, glow in the dark math. We have a literacy night planned. We're doing park days, all sorts of fun opportunities for families to come together and be in community. And then one more, the bee's gonna fly. He keeps going. I didn't know they did that till just now. It's really exciting. There we go. So one other really exciting piece that we've put in place this year are some parent engagement opportunities. And so we've instituted 2 pieces so far. One is that I'm holding a monthly coffee talk session with parents where we meet for a little bit once a month and talk about a topic related to homeschooling. So far we've done just what is homeschooling? What is this adventure? A little networking for parents. So part of that time is spent where I kind of provide some resources and then the group builds connections and they share ideas and it allows them to meet other homeschooling parents, to talk about things that are challenging and to support one another through that. So we've also done presentations on like understanding data. How do you look at your child's data and what do you do with that as a homeschooling parent? Routines at home, how do you build good routines and what happens when your kids change and grow and you need a new routine. This month, we're gonna be taking a look at the importance of reading. So that's kind of fun. And then the other exciting parent engagement piece that we put in is what we're calling parent win seminars, and the win is what I need. We've held one of these and we're holding another one this month, but it's an opportunity for parents to rotate through some seminars where our staff are presenting information in academics, in social emotional, and in behavioral and routine skills. So we have our NCS behaviorists presenting one of those. We have our counselors are presenting the social emotional. And then we did our academic session this round was on scaffolding strategies and how to support your child as a homeschool teacher. All right, and then just remembering at the center of it all, student engagement. Our kids are so happy when they get to come together. Again, that thing that makes us special among homeschooling programs is that we have that beautiful building and that facility and the opportunity for our kids to come together repeatedly with the same students to build relationships. So workshops, of course, are a big piece of that, but also spirit days. We have a very strong leadership group right now of middle schoolers who like to plan dress up days, who like to do little scavenger hunts where they leave, little gnomes around and leave jokes and the other students find them. It's very fun. Leadership events, we hold regular middle school socials. I think we've had three of them so far this year and have a couple more. The return of recitals and performances has been just wonderful. And kind of as a side note, we're very excited. A pallet just got dropped off. We used some arts grant money and our new stage just arrived. It's all in pieces, but the new stage is going up and by spring, the performances will happen on the new stage in the new building. And then return of yearbook. We had a teacher pick up yearbook and a group of students who was very enthusiastic. So we're just kind of putting some of those togetherness culture pieces back in place. All right, so to close this off, there's another dancing bee. Where are we headed? So we wanted to continue to focus in those areas. In community, we continue to expand our field trip and event offerings, taking parent input. What do your kids need? What are you hoping for? We're expanding parent training opportunities, frequency, topics, getting input from parents on what would be helpful for you. We continue to refine workshop offerings, and we're really focusing on how to move that dial academically. What kind of support can we provide? And so that leads us to support. So refining universal supports that we provide for everyone. Standardization of advising meeting components to really make sure that we have a model that everyone is kind of using that same model. benchmark assessments and putting in that accountability, not just at the beginning and the end of the year, but as we go, that all of those advising meetings have assessment components and we have eyes on kids and we know right where they are. And we continue to update curricular options, exiting older materials, bringing in updated materials. And then for growth, we're implementing kindergarten screeners. In the fall, this will really take place, but we've been working with Star Academy to really align our practice with when we bring kindergartners in, what data do we collect and how do we use that? We're working on developing academic support workshops. So like what happens when your kid is behind in math and you need help? How do we support parents? How do we support kids? And what does that look like? And refining recruitment processes. Where do our enrolled students come from? How do we find the right people and the right thing who want to do this together and come in and be part of this homeschool hive, and just be there with us doing all our fun activities.
Get it? Be there.
Be there. So there have been a lot of really bad bee puns in my year, and if you ever visit me, you can see I sport a lot of bee jewelry these days. So I just wanted to leave you with a cute little picture. The last slide has adorable children dressed as beekeepers. That's our fairy tale town trip. But come visit us. We would love to. I know that we opened when everything was kind of closed down, but we're all open. So let me show you around. We'd love to tell you all about what we're doing and what's exciting, and would love to see you on campus. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a comment. I would just like to tell you that I definitely appreciate the work that you guys are doing with bringing the parents together. I know you talk a lot about the fact that, there's services on campus and programs for students that make us unique, but I really think the work that you guys are doing around supporting the parents and creating that community between parent groups is really important and unique too. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Carter. All right. Enrollment trends. Enrollment trends.
She's back. No, Laura's our data person now. She's doing awesome
So
stuff.
she does the trends and you do the report.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Got it.
Yes. And I printed mine out as well because I was working about storming up those gorgeous out there. All right, so welcome to the enrollment update. So we have started to do this annually where we look at where we've been and who is a part of our community and learning more. So I'll be doing the presenting, but we also have Molly Schmidt, our data manager here. So she's our guru of all the enrollment data because she's in charge of all those processes. So, okay, next slide, please. Okay, so first starting out, looking at our current demographics, we are quite diverse. And I love every year taking a moment to look at how a lot of our little triangles are getting very equal, which I love because that means that we're not lopsided. And so that's always fun. One thing to keep in mind as you're looking at this, and I know with our diverse community, really to keep in mind that the Asian chunk there is actually incorporates our families who are coming from India and Pakistan as well, which we have large populations. I often have people say, hey, where's that little pie? But they get grouped into that. And then, yes. And then many of the families get grouped into the more than one, the multi-racial groups. So quite a nice diversity. Changes in our population over the last 2 years. Not super significant. We did have some growth in our Asian and Black and African American groups, but it's stayed fairly steady. Next one. Missing means what? Oh, means that they did not report. Yeah, so they chose not to report their background. Changes in population. So in addition to the demographic data, we also look at who are the students that are at our school that need
perhaps additional supports. So looking here, you see kind of the trends over the last couple of years. Little over 7% of our students are emergent bilinguals. It's down a little bit, 2%, and I would like to say that we've been reclassifying quite a few kids, so that's part of it. So that's the way we want that going. Let's see, 5% of students have 504s. That's held pretty steady. A lot of the 504 plans are based on medical needs or other things that are not changing. And so that's makes sense. We have about 11%, 10.59% of students that are part of inclusive education, which has gone down 1%. And then almost 23% of our population is eligible for free and reduced lunch. And so it's been about the same as last year, although it's risen since previous years. We're hoping to see that we're gaining in that last area because we have a new lottery policy that gives priority to that. Just a quick overview of our enrollment schedule. The process that we're going through right now, we're in application season, if any of you hadn't noticed. Our office staff teams are working really hard to gather all the information from all of the applications. We made some changes in that process this year, where in the past families had to come in or do a virtual intake meeting where we reviewed all of the information. That took about 15 to 20 minutes per applicant. And so Molly, along with the office staff, did some data on kind of looking at like how many of those meetings were coming up with anything different than yes, 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 that's all correct. And so they've moved to a version this year where there's not a required intake meeting, and they're reviewing all of the applications in the office. And if there's any questions or they think that a family might have left something out that would give them an additional priority, they're calling them up and having those meetings. So it's gotten much more efficient and a lot happier in the front office, and because then we don't have lines of people waiting. And then we will have our lottery coming up and then registration in the spring and fall. Next one, please. Okay, if we're looking at lottery application counts, this is actually, I have to frame this, this is last year's lottery because we don't have our counts yet for this year's lottery because we're not there. So we're looking at last year's lottery numbers. And so we have there the annual enrollment seats that we have. And on here, I only have the site-based academies because ECA and PACT are able to enroll throughout the year. So they don't get that big surge of applicants necessarily at application season because they are more flexible. And so you'll see that we have we did increase. So the yellow year there was when we were kind of in that COVID grind and people weren't quite sure what was going on. And so 2022 is where we started to come back to normal and we saw more students applying for the programs and coming back on site. Next one, please. So our applicant demographics we have here. And so this is interesting because not all the applicants get into the school. So we always want to see who are we interesting as they are looking at the school. And so looking at this data, what we see from past years is that our white and Asian families, we're actually seeing a little decline in applications last year. And then we saw a rise in our Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, and multi-demographic families. So it's kind of interesting how we're seeing some movement there. Next one, please. We also look at the household income to look at what is our population looking like, what are the needs of the students. And so looking here, we actually saw our groups of families that make between 25,000 and 75,000 went up. So we're getting more families within that range, which I think has to do somewhat with our economy, right? And the changing of jobs and availability. And then we saw a decline in our applicants with a family household income of 100,000 or more. So that's just kind of a sign of the times going on there. Next one, please. We also look at our families and see how, the parent education and how that's impacting the student or the applicants, because we want to make sure that we are reaching out to all families so that the access is equitable, make sure we're reaching them all. This year, we saw a slight decline in families that have parents with a bachelor's degree who have completed college. And then an increase in families with parents that have their highest level of education is high school diploma. So we see that we're reaching a broader base, which is really good because we want to make sure that all families have access to our lovely charter school. Okay, next one, please. So if we're looking at our pre-lottery application count, so this is how many applications we have right before the lottery. So once again, we're still looking at last year's data, but you'll see that that we did have an increase last year post-COVID. So remember the year before, everybody was like, oh, we don't want to go to school. Everybody hide at home because it was COVID. And so last year we saw that bump. And so STAR, we saw an increase of 8.8% applications. Leading Edge went up 15.8%, and PFAA went up 19.1%. So that's good. That means that people are trusting us with their children as we're coming back from COVID, which is fabulous. All right, next one, please. Okay, and so you're saying, what about PACT and ECA, right? They're key elements of our school. And so just to kind of look at, we have a spring wave of people that are applying for the following year, right? As they're finishing up a school year, they're saying, where do we want to go next year? Let's start looking at those applicants. We also see a summer, we call summer trickle, where there's some people who are making decisions after the end of school and over summer, they're going, we need to find someplace that will better support our students, right? Or give them something different. And then we see another wave in September, October. So that's why it's a little bit different than the site-based ones. We're more flexible there. But if you look at the applications that we had from last year, so for PACT, we had 117 applications, and they only had about 30 to 40 open spots. So we were able to add, if families left, fill in those wait lists and go through the wait list, which is great. And that happens because sometimes you start homeschooling and then you're like, oh my goodness, I have to actually teach my child all day. And so sometimes we have families who try it and then say, maybe not. And that's okay, right? Because we know as parents, I'm a parent, that you got to do that as you go through raising your children. Sometimes you try something, you say, nope, that's not it. I'm going to try something different. And so we definitely support that. For ECA, we had quite a few additional applications to the spots that we had. And what I looked at and what was really interesting is because sometimes families will apply to multiple programs, right? Because they are just trying to make sure that their child can get into Natomas Charter School somewhere, right? Like I know when my child went into 6th grade, right? We applied to all the programs because I was like, my child will get to Natomas Charter School, right? All the programs are great, but I just want to make sure that they get in there. And so when I was looking at that and Molly and I were discussing, it was interesting because for 9th grade, where we had 58 applicants for only about 30 or so spots, 50% of those students applied just to ECA. Right. So they're really, that's the place they want to be. If they're not saying, I want one of these, they're saying, this is the spot for me. In 10th grade, we had 66% of the applicants wanting just ECA. In 11th grade, we had 75% of the applicants just wanting ECA. And then in 12th grade, we had 20%. So, it's, they're seeing the value in the early college academy and people are seeking it out. So that's really nice. Next one, please. So if we look at the enrollment season, we have seats that we offer and families accept them. That's what you see on the blue there over the years. And then we have some families that decline, right? So for example, when my child was applying, right, we could only take one seat. And so we accepted at the Performing and Fine Arts Academy, but we had to decline at Leading Edge, right? Happened that that's just where we got accepted first, right? But like, then so I want you to think about declining and not as like a, ooh, we don't want Natomas Charter School, but of this spot didn't work for me. One interesting thing that we have showcasing here is that in 2022, we had a lot more declines. And what we found is that many families were waiting. They were accepting a spot and they were kind of like when you apply to college, right? You like get all your things in a row and then you wait and you probably wait till the last minute to make your decision. And so we found a lot of people that were saying, oh, nope, I'm going somewhere else. And so we had a lot of people declining the spot kind of towards the last minute. But that was great because then we were able to pull people off of the wait list who had been waiting. And what we saw is that that the people that were accepting those from the wait list, they were good to go. They were like, yes, let me in, let's do this, let's be a part of Natomas Charter School. So that is lovely. Student wait lists, we see the yellow here is that there's an increase in all the wait lists. So we had many more people applying for essentially the same amount of spots. So the wait lists were high for all different grade levels. Oh, and this, I'm showing the PFAA one here because Star Academy and Leading Edge, they don't have much movement at all. And so, so it would just look exactly the same. And there wouldn't be any variance. So, and then go ahead to the next. Oh, you're already there. So, there we go. Okay. And then same thing here. We see kind of less movement on the wait list once we initially got people in. So those people accepted the spots once school started and they stayed. All right, next one. So looking at disenrollment, because we want to look at, okay, why are people leaving when they're leaving, right? How many people are leaving when they're leaving? And so this is broken up all NCS, and we're looking at the different grade levels. And so the last column over there is the change. And initially, when Molly and I were looking at this, we were looking at percent change. But if you look at like kindergarten, in the past years, we had 10 kids that ended up moving, and then we had 11, right? So it's just one more kid, which we know we've had in the last 24 hours. No, the last school year, we had a lot of families that were moving and relocating and making changes in their families. So the one area that we really see kind of is a change point that we're looking into is 3rd grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade. And so that's something that we're looking at is what is the change point. So we're digging into that a little bit further. Next one, please. Okay, so in our applications, we ask parents, why are you interested in coming to Natomas Charter School? And if you look at that, it's pretty even. They like all the different parts, whether it's the instructional format, the academics, social emotional support, the climate, the location, the community. They like them all, which is great. But we were talking about maybe we need to have people rank them on the survey next year, since everybody just went, woo, yeah, we love this, so that we can kind of find what are the things that are most popular. So we're gonna have to do some editing to our charts there, which is funny because in past years it wasn't that way, but everybody, I guess, on this last time was just very eager. So what does this all mean? So, you know, we're staying about the same. We're seeing a little bit of, decreases in our emergent bilinguals and our inclusive ed, very small, some changes in the demographics of the families that we talked about. And what we're seeing here is 80% of our site-based or 80% of our all charter school is site-based. And the other 20% are non-site based. And so what we're seeing is that being that community of choice that offers different options is really beneficial in our community because we have people choosing those different options. So that was really nice to see. Let's see, the different neighborhoods we pull from are ones that are around us, from West Sacramento, Del Paso Heights, Rio Linda. Let's see, we did see a little decrease in parents accepting seats. And so that might be just that we have more and more other charter school options out in the community. So we have to kind of spread it out a little bit. But really our best ways of marketing are through word of mouth and the community that we build, which I feel like the students here really represent this amazing community that we have. Go to the next one, please. So looking ahead, we are, as far as trying to make sure that we are bringing in new families and new students, we're going to continue to have in-person events. We've got some visits for the preview days for middle school and high school. We had some information nights. We're having in-person auditions. I know PACT and ECA are doing, they do tours all the time. So very, very much open to that. To make ease of access, we have our online application. We're no longer having those virtual or those intake meetings. We are going to be tracking the changes based on the new lottery preferences. We combined some lottery preferences, so it wasn't so complicated, where we've got siblings enrolled in another academy and yourself enrolled in another academy as a priority. That priority 4 got combined to simplify it. But priority 5 is giving priority to students who are an unduplicated count, which means that they are emergent bilinguals, that they are maybe foster youth, or are qualifying for free or reduced lunch plan, which is similar to what the other charter schools do in the Natomas area, giving that equity of access. We are going to continue to track disenrollments, find out, what is the reasoning for families moving away from Natomas Charter School, and following up with them to give feedback to see how we can continually improve, and then continuing to have our community events and telling our story. Next one, please. So marketing and outreach, right? You have to continually market our social media posts, right? I feel like they're all the time. That's like my whole feed sometimes is all the Natomas Charter different Instagram and Facebook posts. I know the ECA, they post, I think, almost every day, and I'm always getting awesome things from them. I look forward to it when I open my phone. We're going to community events, participating in things that are happening, having our on-campus nights. We are in the middle of production of a 30th anniversary video that will be coming out soon. I don't know the exact release date. I don't know if Dr. Wood does or not.
We're finalizing it, final edits.
Yes, final edits. Let's see, we are creating a supplement in the Sacramento News and Review. We did this a long time ago, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe. And so it's like the little insert, and so it's like a little mini magazine all about Natomas Charter School and our 30 years. So that's coming out. I know we were looking at final edits for that. And then Kathy Romero-Malay, who's organizing all this stuff, has also making new materials, updated materials for all of our academies. And I put a little picture of one there. It's got a little different look. And so that is it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yeah,
what kind of material or what are you doing specifically in the Rio Linda area? So in the Rio, that's a good question. I mean, we're kind of canvassing all of it, but I don't know exactly in that.
So we have kind of two things going on. One, our social media posts are targeting within 10 miles of the location of this campus, kind of with the idea that goes into the Rio Linda area. Also, Laura was talking about the print publications that are being finalized. So once those are finalized, we're looking at doing some targeted mailings. And usually what we've been doing for targeted mailings is in Natomas, we're using the 95833 zip code, so South Natomas, and then using the Rio Linda zip codes as well.
Because when you said the news and review and putting something in, I'm just wondering if in Rio Linda, I know they have a small little paper that's at the main grocery store, right? Food for Less. Yeah. It's a big group. So even seeing how even incorporating it with that or having some material at the Food for Less grocery store where we all go to.
Can you email me the name of the newspaper because then I can work with Callie and maybe there's a way we can get it.
Make sure we can get it in there.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? All righty.
All right, so continuing the theme of enrollment, the enrollment report is the next item on the agenda. This is just a kind of a check-in time of where our enrollment is at. In this particular board meeting, it's our enrollment as of December 31st. So our enrollment as of December 31st captures students who disenrolled at the end of the first semester, which sometimes happens in high school if they decide they're going to go to a different high school. But it does not yet capture those who are starting the second semester with us because this occurs during the middle of the year break. But basically, if you look at the numbers on the screen, you look at the column that has 12/31/2022 at the top, those are pretty much our enrollment numbers as of today. If there's any difference, it's by 1 or 2 as new students are coming in. The biggest difference is down at our Early College Academy. On this report, it says 101, but they actually added 5 new students, around 106 as of today. Related to this, Laura was talking about our application season from last year. So we're in the midst of application season for this year. We're about halfway, but last year we received a total of about 1,500 applications. We're already at a little over 1,000 applications, so just under 1,100 as of today. The bulk of those applications, obviously coming from Star Academy, leading edge and PFAA. I would actually say PFA is a little ahead of where they were this time last year, and so is leading edge. What we're definitely seeing just anecdotally in the application process this year is people settling a lot more than they did last year. So the last 2 years as we went through the application process, we also were in a very tumultuous time in terms of people relocating to other communities, maybe relocating out of state, moving to Folsom, moving to Rockland, whatever that might be. And right now what we're really seeing is that people are not relocating anymore. Now we're sort of settling down and it's people. What's interesting is in this year's process, we actually got to welcome some students in that were new to Natomas into our site-based programs, which doesn't typically happen just because of the nature of the application process, but we might be a little bit, I think, returning to more normal times, if you will, as we look into this next application process, just based on what we're seeing in the preliminary applications. Sitting at 1,100 applications in early January is pretty remarkable because we actually have not done any of our parent information nights. Those actually start next week and the following week. We also haven't had our preview day or our 5th grade field trip. Those are coming up at the end of this month. And usually the 5th grade field trip and preview day is when we see, a third to maybe even half our applications come in within 24 to 48 hours after that. So it'll be interesting to see, where we end this year. Maybe this was the year everyone just filed applications early. I don't know. Every year is a little different. We'll kind of have to see. But as Laura was mentioning, this is also a year where we have our new lottery preferences that you guys that we approved as part of our charter. So that'll be that we're gonna see what those impacts are as well, and hopefully that does result in us having a larger emergent bilingual student population, as well as students that qualify for free and reduced lunch or foster youth, kind of being more representative of the district as a whole.
I have a quick question about ECA and kind of the success of our dual enrollment program. Has that been something that's been kind of top of mind for families who are specifically choosing their kids?
Yes, renaming VLA ECA might have been one of the smartest things we ever did, because I think it really got families understanding what that program is, and sometimes what it isn't, right? You know, especially the confusion about being virtual, fully online. But more and more, we're seeing a greater and greater demand for that program, specifically for enrolling in college classes early. And Kim's even been working on some partnerships with Los Rios where our freshmen are actually taking college classes now, which last year I think it started at sophomores, right? So we've been able to bring it down a year. And they're piloting some new stuff. Like one of our dual enrollment classes is actually an ethnic studies class. So that helps those students get, meet potentially a future high school graduation requirement and earn college credit simultaneously. So Kim and the ECA staff this year have been really working on how do we provide more and more, but then also looking at how PFA students can access it as well.
And actually, I was just talking to Kim today, and she's very excited about the number of applications that they have for next year already at ECA. Yeah, they have 40 for freshmen, I think. Yeah, and so she's already excited about growing the program when we get those double, like 2 classes full of freshmen coming in, and so we're seeing that start to happen and the growth of the program. So, and she's working on a whole bunch of really cool things that I won't say yet because that's her.
She's coming to present.
Yeah, she's coming to present soon. But oh boy, she has been busy and it's gonna be great.
All right, any other questions? Enrollment report? Okay, board policies first reading. Board policy 1312.1, disputes regarding school employees. Dr. Wood.
Sure, so tonight we're bringing 4 different policies to the board as a first read. So just as a little reminder of our policy process, so we do a first read, that's an opportunity for the board to provide some feedback. And then next month, we'll come back for a second read for approval. So I'm gonna kind of actually go through each of the policies. I'm gonna do 2 and Laura's gonna do 2, so we'll kind of go through them one at a time. And it'll be an opportunity for you to provide feedback. Kind of the bigger umbrella for all 4 of these policies is really about planning for the upcoming school year. So we are in January now, but it'll be June, we'll be split, we'll all be really surprised. So the first board policy is a policy about disputes regarding school employees. So we have, for the 30 years our school has existed, we've always had a process for if you had a concern or complaint or a dispute about a school employee that you could go through. Really, it was documented in our handbook, not to the level that it is in this policy, but it really walked the individual through a process of first meeting with the individual. Then if that didn't work, then meeting with the individual and their supervisor. If that didn't work, it came to me. And if that didn't work, it might go to the board for a dispute resolution committee. So what we've done here is we've actually taken language that is the Natomas Unified School District board policy. We added some modifications to it because we are a charter school and not a school district. So, changed some words like district to school and school to academy and so forth. But it's basically just provides a pretty solid and robust process that if someone has a complaint or a dispute about an employee at our school that they would follow. Any questions or suggestions? Language modification? And if between now and the second read, there are things that come up, you can email Ziva and I, and we can include them as part of the second read process. But hopefully this is pretty straightforward.
Are the complaints kept confidential?
Generally, yes. It kind of depends a little bit on the nature of the complaint, but to the greatest extent possible, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. So then the next one, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to policy 2 then, is immunizations. So in California, all public schools that provide in-person instruction, which Natomas Charter School is a public school that provides in-person instruction, must abide by the state immunization policy for K-12 students. The state immunization policy, in terms of specific immunizations that are outlined here, is, like I said, it's applied to all public and private schools that provide in-person instruction. So you can see Kindergartners, for instance, as they enter kindergarten, they have to have their Tdap, their polio, their MMR, hepatitis B, and chickenpox. I hope everyone knows this, COVID is not here. COVID is not a required immunization in the state of California. It is completely voluntary at this point. So that is also reflected in our policy. And then you can see that when the student then promotes into 7th grade, there's an additional Tdap dose that is required to be administered. And then on the next page, it talks about varicella. There's 2 doses that have to be administered as part of the 7th grade enrollment. So in California, to attend in-person instruction, either you have to be immunized with these particular immunizations at kindergarten and 7th grade, or you have to have a medical exemption on file. There's actually kind of a new process with that where there's like a centralized database where medical exemptions are kept. And in that centralized database, also doctors are sort of audited on the number of medical exemptions that they're providing. There used to in California be a personal belief exemption. However, I think it was in 2016 or 2015. There was a measles outbreak at Disneyland that was tracked to children that were not immunized for measles. And so at that point, the legislature chose to remove the personal belief exemption. So I know when I'm talking about immunizations with parents and staff members, sometimes people think, oh, isn't there a personal belief exemption? In California, there's not. In other states, there might be, but in California, there's not. So in 2019, so for the Natomas Charter School's 30 years of existence, we've always just followed the Natomas Unified School District policy for immunizations, which basically says everyone who comes to our school has to be fully immunized. In 2019, as we were drafting our own version of this policy, the board chose to create an exemption for students who are attending PACT who only went to advising meetings. Effectively, we were saying the advising meetings were not instruction, they weren't like a workshop or a group activity, so you could come to the advising meeting. The thinking behind that at the time is that there were very few virtual or independent study options anywhere in the Sacramento region. So in order for those students to still have access to some sort of public K-12 environment, that would be an option for them. Since then, with COVID, as I think it was Alicia that was mentioning, every school district is offering independent study program. Here in Natomas, we also have a virtual learning academy that's being offered. So that is an exemption that we might not necessarily need, but kind of bigger than that is, as Alicia talked a little bit about this in her PACT presentation about we're a homeschooling hive. And as we're sort of looking at the future of PACT, we're noticing a few needs that we need to address. First, when we look at our CASP assessment data, out of all 5 academies, that is the academy that has probably the most concerns around math and English language arts. And so one of the things that we want to be able to do next year is if a student is not performing at grade level standard and parents are really struggling with providing math and English language arts instruction, that we can provide in-person workshops that students are either strongly encouraged to come to or might even become a requirement that they have to come to as part of their support process. Additionally, we have, as we're getting a more and more diverse student population coming into our homeschool program that might have more and more diverse needs, we're finding more and more of a reason for those students to really need to be able to come to in-person workshops. So that could be special education services that are done in a group setting. It could also be kind of a more unique thing in the last couple of years is those emergent bilingual students where parents want to homeschool, but the parent does not speak English and is struggling with how am I going to teach English, but my child's not fully immunized and they need to be able to come to the workshops. So, we've been talking a little bit about this as administrative staff. Board member Lee actually mentioned at the last board meeting, to sort of bring this policy forward to look at, because what we're thinking of doing is basically saying that, starting in next school year, that all students at Natomas Charter School, regardless of what academy you're enrolled in, either must meet the, the legal immunization requirements or have a medical exemption on file. And we wouldn't have that separate PACT carve out anymore. And so the language change, Ziva has it up on the screen. It would be a removal of number 2, which is the highlighted language that is the strike through, which is the language that we had about independent study. And the addition of the green language, just for clarity purposes, and actually next year after this policy is enacted, we'd probably go back and have you guys do a second approval where we just remove the green language. But we were thinking that at least for this current time period, this spring time period, we should be really clear that the expectation is that everyone's fully immunized or meets the immunization requirements by June 30th, 2023. Questions I can answer? There's a lot of information about immunization, probably more than you knew.
Simply ordering, is that the right place for the pact?
We had a whole, Alicia and I had a whole conversation about this. We put it there, we were also thinking it could actually go at the end after what is currently number 3, so Ziva scrolls a little bit.
I think there's value in having it by itself right there out in the open.
Towards the end, or?
Or toward the beginning or the end.
Oh, like just have
But I
it as a
wouldn't bury
separate
it,
statement,
yeah.
yeah, they don't put it as part, yeah,
Yeah.
do that. So leave it where it's at, but then like do a return so that it sort of stands out.
Yeah, or, yeah, I maybe, because you speak, the opening sentence says with the following exceptions, and then you describe the exception in bullet 1. So I think I would put the PACT Academy, I think maybe after 3.
Okay.
Or as the very first sentence, all students must be fully immunized with California, blah, blah, blah. And I guess you could insert it there. I just don't think it should have to be followed. It shouldn't be after the exceptions.
Okay. We can work with that a little bit. Any other questions or thoughts on the immunization policy?
Is there something that dictates what is appropriate documentation?
Yes, it's a little loose. So we take like the little yellow cards. I'm really dating myself. I know. We might not see too many children with the yellow cards, but we used to see children with yellow cards. More and more what we're receiving as records is Kaiser records. So it's like a full printout. We do, if we ever have something seems off, we also have access to the California Immunization Registry, the CARE system. So Christy can do kind of a spot check, which, because she as a school nurse, she has access to that system, so she might do periodically. I actually have a feeling this is an area of future legislation in the state of California. The first thing was to digitize the medical waiver process because there were, unfortunately, doctors that were not always being the most ethical about the medical waivers. And the school year that we're in right now is the first time there was a real audit of that. And I know that we had a number of students that actually, they lost their medical waiver because the doctor lost their license as part of that audit. So we've been working with families on, having them seek out a new medical waiver or look at having their child appropriately immunized. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if that next piece of legislation is trying to look at more of a statewide database that's audited.
Do we need to have a line in here of what is the outcome should something be deemed invalid?
You mean like if like using the medical waiver as an example?
Or if there were documentation that maybe wasn't legitimate?
Like falsification is grounds for automatic.
Removal from the program. We can have that in. So, falsification of records is grounds for immediate removal from Natomas Charter School. All right. Those are my 2 policies. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Laura.
Oh, look at it. All right, so we have 2 policies here. The first one is curriculum development and evaluation. Part of my process as starting the teaching and learning department and this role is really looking at what sort of processes do we have in place and what do we need? And one of the things that over the course of the past few years we started to develop is looking at what is the curriculum development and adoption process. Because historically it's been quite loose and sometimes individual teacher centric. And what we have seen is that over the years we've gotten more diverse needs of students. And really needing to make sure that our process, or that we have a process and that it's data driven. So if we see that, we have students that have a need for additional intervention, that whatever curriculum we're adopting should have some intervention pieces there available. We've also seen staff members changing. Years ago, quite a few years ago, when I came to the school, we had mostly veteran teachers that were coming to work. And now with the shift in the change of educators in the state of California, we're seeing brand new or intern teachers coming in. And so we've had a lot more of staff wishing to have a more set curriculum to use as their baseline. And the teachers are still architects of learning, but it gives them that kind of ground floor with which to build. And so an example is that right now we just adopted math curriculum, the CPM curriculum, and then science we got for our middle school, and now the high school science teachers are saying, that looks pretty nice to have that, and especially with the changes in the different standards and the new NGSS science standards, there's just a lot of change going on, and having that baseline is important. So what this is that having a policy that we will have a process in place so that it's not just up to the whim or the will of any one person or group, but making sure that it's data informed. So and aligning our resources. And I'm in the middle of developing those processes. So we're doing it today, actually. So any questions about the process or the need for it?
Next,
Next.
complaints regarding instructional materials.
Yes. So this current time in place that we live in, we are seeing a more fractured community ideas. And while we've always had questions about different curriculum choices in the past, oftentimes we've seen that it's the parent or the student just talking to the teacher was enough to resolve it. And similar to the disputes about staff members, we had a process in place, but it wasn't codified anywhere. And so this is an attempt to codify the processes of, if someone has a question or a dispute about the curriculum, they start by going to the teacher, talking to the teacher about it. If it doesn't get resolved, then it would go to the academy principal, and then if that goes beyond that, then it would go to directors, and then if it went past us, and you guys could deem if it's something that you would like to respond to or not. But just codifying that process that we always start at the lowest level, right? Start by talking to the person that created the thing you have questions about, and then move up. And so, we feel like this just makes things very clear and allows the teachers who are the architects of learning to be able to have that conversation straight away rather than someone jumping the system. So, any questions about this?
I think I found one district that.
Yes,
You're not
I know, I
catching
saw that.
You got that, okay.
Yeah, I saw that too. You read it through how many times?
Oh, yeah,
right?
it's inevitable.
It's inevitable, yes, but thank you.
What's nice about these policies is we'll also have alignment with Natomas Unified, which just helps to eliminate some confusion for parents and families as they're, sharing their concerns between the systems.
All right. Let's see. I think that's it on the policies. My favorite part.
This is where
Tis
he
the
shines.
season.
He loves this so much.
I did. It's my favorite. They have been released. They are before you. Please submit them for March 31st. And I'll be reminding you every month. Emails, text messages, pigeon birdies, whatever you need to do.
That's right.
With a pen.
The last weekend.
DoorDash, oh, and here's your salad. I know that you'll be happy to share last year's versions if anybody needs help in how they.
Yes, anything regarding Form 700s, you just let me know, except for the advising part, I can't do that. And there's even a sample filled out by Ted Lasso that is very helpful in your
He did that
process.
for us.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's great.
It
Love
sounds
it.
sweet. It floats. Dr. Wood, do you have any executive director comments?
Where did I put them? Oh, here we go. So first, I just want to give a shout out to all of our staff. It's been interesting the last 2 weeks that we tried to have school, and it's like, what, 2 weeks and 5 storms that are like, every other day is the storm of the century type thing. So, today we had staff here at 6 a.m. inspecting the building, making sure we had power, we could operate. So we couldn't do it without them. Just a couple quick things. We, as students mentioned earlier, next weekend, there's no school on Monday the 16th and Tuesday the 17th. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And then we have a teacher work day or staff development day. And then later this month is the winter dance performance on Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th. So if you'd like to come, just shoot me a little email. We try to connect you with tickets. And then application season, we're in the thick of it. I don't feel like I can say it enough. Applications close February 17th at 4 p.m. to be considered in this year's lottery. Let all your friends know.
Don't forget the ELAC meeting.
Oh, when's the ELAC meeting, Laura?
The ELAC meeting is the last Monday of the month. It's either the 30th or 31st. I can't remember. I'm checking now. The 30th.
ELAC
5:30.
meeting on the
right
30th
here.
at 5:30.
Come on down.
Board of Director comments? Nothing from me. Okay, well, future board agenda items.
I'll have an agenda for you.
We'll see.
Form 700.
Do remember that for February and March, closed session will start at 5 rather than 5:30.
Okay.
Because you are remotely working with Walt on the executive director evaluation. And then open session will start at 6:30. So we'll have 90 minutes for closed session in February and March, followed by open session starting at 6:30.
Okay, and if we all wanted to maybe mess with Ziba, we could just turn all these in and then she wouldn't have anything to do.
You won't be first because Molly beat me to it.
Oh.
First, and I was number 2. So I know. Things like that.
All right, well, on that note, thank you, everybody. Thank you, students, for sticking around. It was great to have you